This is Ben Barnes. You may recognize him from this thing, or this thing, or this other thing.
Oh, it's the guy from The Thing.
But before he became one of the busiest actors in film and TV, music was his passion. As a teenager, he imagined a career singing on stage. He's a pretty good drummer, too. Now, after 2 decades as an actor, Ben Barnes has returned to music.
Music was always my first passion. My dad was a huge music fanatic. He had like every Beatles album, every Stones album, every Eagles album, Queen, and all those kind of 70s rock bands. And I tried learning different instruments when I was young. I had 1 piano lesson, which I deeply regret not going back. I think I had a trumpet lesson, and then drums was the instrument that I kind of settled on. I played drums in like big bands, jazz orchestras and stuff through school, and then got towards the end of high school, I really started wanting to do more singing, and I sung in choirs and stuff. I was a very shy kid, and I didn't really have a way into stepping forward. I remember once I was in a choir and they asked me to kind of step forward and do this like solo line, and I couldn't do it. When I was 13, 14, I couldn't do it, and I was in a kind of system where that was kind of shamed almost, and I thought, okay, well, the limelight is not for me. So I kind of really didn't want to kind of give in to that. I'm kind of stubborn in that way, and I started doing these Stevie Wonder, like Soul Nights and Sinatra tribute concerts singing. I sort of like caught the bug of singing different types of music, and I would rummage around in different vinyl collections and find like the Stevie Wonder and the Elton John and the Donny Hathaway and the Aretha Franklin, and all that stuff became my kind of like passion. And I was involved doing like musicals as a kid as well. Music was like just a huge part of my growing up and my education. And I thought maybe that would be a path. I could be like, you know, third standard bearer from the left in the chorus of some show, because I just thought, you know, being in the entertainment industry at all, it's such a kind of potluck kind of business, and anyone who's got anywhere in it, yeah, of course you have to have the talent to sustain, but anyone who has got any level of success, I think, in this business has had a huge element of good fortune to be in front of the right person at the right time. The moment I started getting auditions for like these plays that didn't have music in them, and then an audition came up for a movie, and I thought, I just never imagined myself being in a movie, honestly, until I was at least 20. Suddenly those opportunities came up, and it was something that I just had to full throttle chase when it was leaning towards becoming a reality.
Following a supporting role in Stardust, Barnes landed bigger parts, and more of them. As his acting career grew, his music career faded, but he never let go of his first love.
At 19, I was signed to a company, 19 Management actually, who created the Spice Girls and all those to sing jazz, but it just didn't go anywhere very, very quickly. They sort of dropped the plan to do this kind of young jazz guy. I didn't have the confidence that I had anything to say or anything to offer or anything to share. I think as you grow up and you mature and things happen in your life, you feel like you have some perspective and maybe something that's valid. And so I think once I found that confidence, which took me deep into my 30s to find, I thought, well, I don't want to be an old man who didn't try and release some of his music and try and sing it to people. So I just was very fortunate a few people just agreed to kind of help me put various stems together from musicians I knew across the world and start building some songs that I had been working on. And then one of them just got streamed a lot more than I kind of expected. And so I thought, I have to do a show, even though it scares me. Like that 13, 14-year-old kid who didn't want to step forward suddenly like came to the front of my personality, and I didn't want to do it. But then I did one show, and I don't even know if it was the music, but I think people were like, the fact that you're doing this at 40 makes me feel like I can do whatever I want to do. And then that sort of infused its way into the music, I think. It's become a big part of the message of how I write things and how I perform as well.
Take me to the moon, take me through the thunder, so I don't have to wonder, bring you back to soon. You'll never wanna roam, let it take you home.
A lot of the musicians were people I'd met making my EP, or actually my music manager and my drummer I've known for 17 years. We worked on a movie together called Killing Bono, a music movie. He was in the studio with me, encouraging me back then. And we lost touch for a few years, and then he was always very supportive of me doing music. So then when I really wanted to do it seriously, he just came back in and said, I'm here, man, whatever you need. And then James Valentine and Sam Farrar, both in Maroon 5, were just people that I'd met around LA doing sort of cover songs and things like that, and they'd seen TV shows I was in, and I had been a fan of Maroon 5 for so long. I cheekily just ran up to him in a parking lot and asked if he wanted to write a song with me. Then he brought Sam, the bass player, in, who ended up producing the album. The songwriting with the EP was, I just wrote them all myself. I just relentlessly sat at the piano and made terrible noises until it sounded better. On the album, I wrote all the lyrics, and then I sort of co-wrote a lot of the songs with people that I just knew were very, very musical. I'm so lucky because I can go to Oslo in Norway, I can go to Dublin, I can go to Chicago, I can go to Montreal, I can go to New York, I can go to Seattle. So I think that's the great benefit of doing it, is that I wasn't starting from 0 people. But that was also the scary thing when I did my first show. It sold out in 5 minutes. It was a very small venue, but I sort of forgot that even a small show, 500 phones can very quickly turn into like thousands of videos. It can't be terrible. So there's pros and cons, but mainly pros. There will be a portion of people who will show up because they've heard the music, and a portion of people who will show up out of curiosity. Watch him, look at him dancing around like an idiot. Either way, they usually leave with the same perspective, which is like feeling good about their evening and feeling like connected to the emotions of the songs in some way, and that makes me feel wonderful. It's a very fulfilling thing to go off to some random country and sing something about some experience you had to a crowd of people you've never met, and those strangers have made this song into something about their own lives, and they're singing it back at you because they understand. What more is there to the human experience than that? As you grow up and you mature and things happen in your life, you feel like you have some perspective and maybe something that's valid and worth sharing. Someone asked me on a podcast the other day, like, do you feel worthy of this? And I was like, I don't know, sort of leans into feeling like deserving, like who deserves anything more than anyone else? But do I feel like my message is as celebratory and hopeful and joyful and valid to share as anyone else's? Yeah. And so I think once I found that confidence, which took me deep into my 30s to find, I thought, well, I don't want to be an old man who didn't try and release some of his music and try and sing it to people. And here we are 5-6 years later, and finished a world tour and released an album and worked with these incredible people, and I feel really lucky.